The sky above Lumeria Prime burned with twin suns, casting golden light that made the alien city shimmer like a living jewel. Its towers were tall and translucent, twisting into impossible shapes reflecting the light in waves that made the surface seem alive. The Lumerians, tall and slender with skin like liquid crystal, moved with precision, each step measured, each motion elegant. They were a people of peace, of intellect and diplomacy. War had never been their way. But now panic had swept through their world. The Xylar horde, a monstrous alien species that devoured everything in its path, had descended upon Lumeria Prime. Their ships blotted out the suns. Cities that once glowed like stars were now smoking ruins, and the Lumerians, masters of knowledge but unprepared for battle, had no one to turn to. Desperate, they reached across the stars, sending a message into the void. It was not a cry for peace, but a plea for salvation. They asked for partners, fighters who could help defend their world. Their hope rested on the unknown, on the distant humans of Earth. In a dark command chamber orbiting Earth, the message arrived. Lieutenant Mara Cade, commander of the Deathworlder Battalion, read the transmission with sharp eyes. Her expression was calm, almost cold, but beneath it burned a fire that had been forged on countless hostile worlds. Aliens need help, Mara said, her voice firm. They want partners. I say we give them more than partners. We give them warriors. Her officers exchanged looks. There was no doubt in their minds. They were Deathworlders, soldiers trained on planets where only the strongest survived. Ordinary humans feared them, called them monsters. But Mara knew what they truly were, humanity's edge against a cruel universe. Within hours, the Armada was ready. Massive starships, scarred from battles across the galaxy, roared to life. Crews of hardened soldiers marched to their ships, their faces stern, their eyes carrying the weight of worlds they had conquered and survived. They were not heroes seeking glory. They were humans who thrived where others perished. Their presence alone carried a promise: survival no matter the cost. As the Armada left Earth, the crew stared into the endless darkness of space. The stars stretched into streaks as faster-than-light engines pushed them forward. Every human aboard knew the risk. The Xylar horde was not just an enemy. It was an extinction force. Yet none wavered. Humanity had endured hells that would have destroyed lesser species. They would endure this too. When the first Lumerian emissaries met the humans, fear clung to them like a second skin. They had expected scholars, diplomats, or scientists. Instead, towering humans clad in blackened armor stood before them, radiating raw power and deadly confidence. One young Lumerian whispered, voice trembling, "These are Deathworlders?" Mara's gaze swept over them. "We do not negotiate with monsters. We destroy them." Her words were simple, direct, but the weight behind them settled in the hearts of the aliens. Hope, fragile and long forgotten, sparked in their eyes. They had asked for partners, yes, but they had received something far stronger: saviors who fought with the heart of a storm. The Lumerians explained the Xylar threat. Their cities were falling, their people enslaved, their history at risk of erasure. Mara listened silently, absorbing every detail. Every second counted. Hesitation could mean the end for this world. But there was no hesitation in the hearts of the Deathworlders. Every human aboard understood the same truth. Fear was a choice. Courage, action, survival, they were instinct. Deep in the void, the Xylar horde advanced, a tidal wave of destruction that consumed all in its path. Yet somewhere within the human armada, a strange emotion stirred. Mara felt it first, a mix of pride, determination, and something tender, almost alien to a soldier hardened by death worlds. Humanity had been tested in the fires of impossible planets. In wars no one else could survive. And now that same humanity would rise to protect another world. Not for glory, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. The ships cut through the darkness with purpose, engines humming like predatory beasts. Mara's eyes scanned the charts, every star, every jump point, every possible ambush. She turned to her crew. They wanted partners, she said quietly, almost to herself. They got warriors. As the armada plunged deeper into the void, towards a war that would decide the fate of an entire species, the Deathworlders moved as one. Their resolve was unbreakable, their hearts unyielding. The universe might have feared them, but today it would witness why humanity was not just a survivor. Humanity was a reckoning. The void of space stretched endlessly before the Deathworlder armada, black and infinite, like the silent mouth of a predator waiting to strike. Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, the flagship of the fleet, her hands gripping the railing. Her eyes traced the distant glint of the Lumerian system below. From orbit, Lumeria Prime looked beautiful and fragile, its twin suns reflecting off crystal towers that had barely survived the first wave of Xylar attacks. The sensors suddenly flared red. Hundreds of Xylar ships were emerging from the dark, black as nightmares, each bristling with weapons designed to tear life apart. Mara's jaw tightened. She had seen the horrors of the universe before, but nothing compared to this. Machines and creatures fused into living engines of war, their intent clear: consume, destroy, leave nothing. The Lumerians aboard the armada gasped in fear. They are so many, one whispered. Mara glanced at them, her face steady. Numbers mean nothing. Skill, courage, and purpose, those are what win wars. The Deathworlders moved like a well-oiled machine. Squadrons of fighters surged ahead, weaving in patterns that the Xylar could not predict. Mara's own squadron, the Black Talon, struck first. They hit a horde of smaller Xylar frigates, tearing through their defenses with precision fire. Explosions flared, lighting the void in eerie bursts of orange and green. Even in the chaos, Mara noticed the Lumerians watching, their eyes wide in awe. They had asked for partners, expecting advisors or strategists. Instead, they witnessed warriors who had learned to survive the deadliest worlds. Every Deathworlder pilot fought with instinct honed through years of brutal conditions. Every move calculated, every strike deadly. But the Xylar horde was relentless. Larger capital ships loomed closer, each one a fortress bristling with weapons and monstrous life forms. They moved like a tide, and Mara knew the battle would test every ounce of strength the humans had. She gave orders calmly, almost too calm for the ferocity of the situation. Form the wedge formation. Lead the Lumerians through our left flank. No ship falls alone. Her voice was steady, filled with a quiet authority that demanded obedience without fear. Fighters darted, lasers streaked through the void, and massive explosions tore chunks from both human and Xylar ships. But even as the Deathworlders destroyed wave after wave, Mara could feel the weight of the fight pressing down. She saw human pilots going too close to larger Xylar vessels, risking everything to protect Lumerian ships. Her heart tightened with pride. Humanity had never backed down from impossible odds, and here they were proving it again. Then, the Xylar unleashed something new, a monstrous bioship that seemed alive, moving with terrifying speed and intelligence. It swiped at Mara's flagship, tearing open its shields. Alarms blared. Sparks rained across the bridge. Mara's hand slammed onto the console. Focus fire. Take it down before it reaches the planet. The Deathworlders responded instantly. Missiles streaked from every side. Lasers converged on the target. The bioship shrieked as its hull melted under human firepower, but it fought back with brutal cunning. Mara watched, her heart racing, as one of her squadron's fighters was consumed in a violent explosion. She clenched her teeth, swallowing the anger and grief. Every loss mattered, but every human here had a purpose greater than fear. Amidst the battle, a Lumerian scientist, trembling, approached Mara. "Commander, your people. They fight like gods." Mara looked at him, her face tired but unwavering. "No, we fight like humans. We survive when others cannot. That is our power." The fleet pressed on, slowly turning the tide. One by one, Xylar ships fell. The Deathworlders' tactics, relentless determination, and sheer fearlessness began to push back the seemingly endless horde. Mara's mind focused on the bigger picture. Protect Lumeria Prime, protect the innocent, and show the universe what humanity could do. As the last of the first wave of Xylar ships burned in the void, the Armada paused. Silence fell over the fleet for a brief moment, broken only by distant alarms and the soft hum of engines. Mara allowed herself a small breath of relief. The Lumerians stared at the humans with something like awe, a realization dawning that these beings were not just fighters, they were saviors, unbroken and unstoppable. Mara turned to her officers, her expression hardening. This was only the beginning. They will come back stronger, and we will be ready. Remember, every world we save, every life we protect, that is the message humanity carries. We do not bow. We do not flee. We fight always. And in that moment, as the twin suns of Lumeria Prime cast long shadows across the shattered cities below, the Lumerians understood fully. They had not just gained allies. They had gained humanity itself. The Deathworlders, fierce and unyielding, who would not stop until justice was done. The void waited, and so did the next battle. The aftermath of the first clash hung heavy over the Armada. Smoke drifted in space, and the distant ruins of Xylar ships glowed like dying embers. Yet the battle was far from over. Mara Cade paced, the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, her boots heavy against the metal floor. Every sensor ping reminded her, the Horde was not finished. They never were. Below, Lumeria Prime was trembling. Cities that had survived the first wave were now filled with fear and panic. Children clung to parents, and families ran for hidden shelters. The Lumerians had relied on negotiation and reason for centuries. They had never imagined such violence, such raw destruction. And now, these humans, the Deathworlders, had become their shield. Mara's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. All units prepare for the second wave. Keep formation tight. Protect the Lumerians at all costs. No ship falls alone. The human crews moved like one living organism. Every pilot, every gunner, every mechanic knew their role. They had survived, on planets that tried to kill them, in wars where the odds were impossible. The Deathworlders did not fight for medals or recognition. They fought because it was what humanity did. And now they fought for the Lumerians. The second wave arrived sooner than expected. The Xylar horde poured from the dark like a tide, their ships larger and more numerous than before. Bioships with jagged metal spines lunged forward, accompanied by vast cruisers bristling with monstrous weapons. Mara's jaw clenched as the first cruiser opened fire, tearing a hole through the Armada's left flank. Alarms screamed across the bridge. One of Mara's lieutenants shouted, "Commander, they've targeted the civilian transports." Without hesitation, Mara's hand gripped the control console. "Divert all firepower. Move the civilians out. Black Talons, cover them." The Deathworlder pilots obeyed instantly. Fighters darted through beams of energy, weaving like deadly shadows, shielding the Lumerian transports. Lasers streaked across the void. Explosions shook the hulls of the larger ships, throwing debris like meteor showers. Yet the humans pressed forward, fearless, relentless. Amidst the chaos, Mara spotted a small Lumerian vessel drifting too close to a Xylar bioship. She activated her fighter's thrusters and charged, her ship cutting through the void like a blade. Missiles streaked past her as she closed in. She fired, hitting the bioship's spine with precision shots. The creature screamed across the sensors as it veered away, giving the Lumerian vessel a chance to escape. A voice crackled in her ear, shaky but awe-filled. I did not know. Humans could do this. Mara didn't answer. Words were useless in the heat of battle. Her eyes, sharp and unflinching, focused on the next target. Every action mattered. Every decision meant life or death. Meanwhile, the Lumerians below watched in stunned silence. Their scientists and leaders, who had spent generations studying the stars, now witnessed something beyond comprehension. These humans, these Deathworlders, were not just strong, they were unstoppable. They moved with purpose, with courage that transcended fear, with unity that seemed almost mythical. But the fight came with a cost. Explosions tore through the fleet, and alarms screamed of casualties. A young Deathworlder pilot, barely out of training, was struck by enemy fire. Mara's heart clenched as she saw him vanish into a cloud of sparks. She swallowed the grief, her face hardening. In this war, survival required sacrifice, and humanity had always understood that better than any other species. The Xylar responded with cunning, attacking in patterns designed to break the humans' formations. Mara anticipated their moves, countering with strategies born of worlds where failure meant death. One by one, the Xylar ships began to fall, their overwhelming numbers failing against human ingenuity and unyielding resolve. Mara allowed herself a brief glance at the Lumerians watching from the safety of their transports. Their fear had begun to turn into wonder. Some even dared to hope. They had asked for partners, expecting assistance. Instead, they found warriors, protectors who would stand between them and annihilation without question. The battle raged for hours. The Armada held the line, losing ships but winning hearts. Mara's voice remained calm, steady, guiding her crew through impossible odds. Do not falter. We are humanity. We survive. We fight. Today, we show the universe who we are. As the Yag second wave finally began to retreat, Mara allowed herself a deep breath. The Deathworlders were battered, but the Xylar had been driven back. Lumeria Prime was safe for now. And though the victory was temporary, its message was permanent. Humanity did not cower. Humanity did not negotiate with monsters. Humanity fought, and it fought with the strength of worlds behind it. The Lumerians would remember this day. They would tell stories of the humans who came when all hope seemed lost. And somewhere in the dark corners of the galaxy, the Xylar would remember too. Humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. Humanity was a reckoning. Mara looked at the glowing twin suns of Lumeria, her face solemn but proud. The fight had only just begun, but she knew this. Whatever came next, humanity would be ready, and in the hearts of every Deathworlder, a single truth burned brighter than the stars. They fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for life, and that made them unstoppable. The calm after the first two waves was only an illusion. Mara Cade, standing on the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, knew the Xylar horde better than anyone. They were relentless, and they never quit. Their first assaults had been probes, tests to measure human strength. Now the real battle was coming. The sensors flared red. A massive fleet emerged from the void, larger and more monstrous than anything Mara had ever seen. The Xylar had learned from the previous encounters. Their ships were faster, stronger, and cunningly organized. Mara's jaw tightened. "Brace for full assault," she ordered. Her voice carried authority and calm, but inside, her pulse surged. The stakes had never been higher. Below, Lumeria Prime trembled as the shadow of the new fleet fell across the planet. Its towers, beautiful and delicate, reflected the rising Xylar ships like glass against a storm. The Lumerians whispered among themselves, their fear palpable. They said they would help. But are humans enough? One asked. Mara's presence, visible through the Armada's comms, was a silent answer. Humanity had never fought like this before, not for wealth, not for conquest, but for life itself. The first wave of the counterattack struck like lightning. Explosions tore across the void as Xylar dreadnoughts opened fire on human lines. Mara barked orders with precision, each command sharp and clear. Form a defensive perimeter, protect the Lumerians, strike their flanks. The Deathworlders responded instantly. Fighters weaved through the void, dodging energy beams that could obliterate their ships in an instant. Missiles streaked past like deadly comets, striking Xylar cruisers with devastating accuracy. Every maneuver was executed flawlessly, every pilot and gunner acting as one mind. Yet even their skill could not stop the horror of war. Mara watched, as a squadron of human ships was swallowed by a massive bioship, the impact rocking her flagship. Sparks rained across the bridge. The sound of alarms was deafening, yet Mara did not flinch. She gritted her teeth and issued new commands, every decision a lifeline for the ships and lives she commanded. One Lumerian ship, a fragile vessel with hundreds of civilians aboard, drifted toward destruction. Mara didn't hesitate. She piloted her fighter through the chaos, weaving past deadly fire. Her missiles hit the Xylar ships that threatened it, creating a corridor of safety. The civilians escaped, their eyes wide with awe and fear. The Lumerians began to whisper among themselves, realizing the humans were not just warriors, they were guardians. Even as victories came, loss shadowed every step. Mara's communications officer, a young recruit named Jalen, was struck by a stray energy blast. The crew held their breath as Mara ordered the retrieval team to his pod. "We do not leave our own behind," she said, voice steady but heart tight. Humanity's strength was not just skill. It was loyalty, courage, and the refusal to abandon life no matter the cost. The Xylar were clever. They adapted, attacking in ways designed to force the humans into traps. But the Deathworlders anticipated, every move using tactics forged on Deathworlds where failure meant certain death. Every strike they delivered was precise. Every maneuver a lesson learned from survival under impossible conditions. As the battle raged, Mara caught a glimpse of the Lumerian leaders watching from orbit. Their fear had changed. Now it was awe mingled with hope. They had asked for partners expecting negotiation or advice. Instead, they found warriors who embodied the fiercest truth of humanity. That when life itself is threatened, humans rise above fear and strike back with everything they have. Hours passed, each more punishing than the last. The Xylar ships fell one by one, though at great cost. Mara's armada was battered yet unbroken. Every Deathworlder who survived this fight knew something ancient and simple. Humans endure. Humans survive. And when humans fight, they carry not just their strength, but the will of all who believe in life itself. Finally, the Xylar fleet began to pull back, retreating into the darkness. Mara allowed herself a moment to breathe. Around her, human crews tended to the wounded, repaired the damaged ships, and prepared for the inevitable next strike. Lemuria Prime was safe for now, but the cost of victory had been written in fire, courage, and sacrifice. The Lumerians approached Mara after the battle. Their voices were quiet, almost reverent. We thought humans were just another species, but you are something else. You fight like the universe itself has blessed you." Mara shook her head. "No," she said softly, tired but unwavering. "We fight because we must, and because life, every life, is worth fighting for." As the twin suns of Lemuria set behind the shattered towers, Mara looked out at the horizon. The Xylar would return. They always did. But so would humanity, and the galaxy would remember this day, not just for the ships destroyed or lives saved, but for the humans who stood against impossible odds, unflinching and unyielding. The Deathworlders had proven once again that their might was not in numbers or technology or fear. Their true power was something deeper: courage, loyalty, and the unbreakable will to survive and protect. And in the darkness of space, Mara whispered to herself, they wanted partners. They got warriors. And warriors do not surrender. The armada regrouped in the calm of deep space, far from the burning debris of Lumeria Prime. Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, her eyes fixed on the dark expanse ahead. This was no longer a battle of defense. The Xylar horde had retreated for now, but they would return. Mara knew that waiting meant more death. Humanity did not wait. Humanity struck. Her officers looked to her, waiting for the next command. She spoke with the quiet certainty that had guided them through countless battles. We go to the heart of their fleet. We hit them where it hurts. Protect Lumeria by cutting off the source of this invasion. We will show the Xylar what it means to face humans. The Deathworlder ships responded immediately, engines roaring to life. Every fighter, cruiser, and transport moved as a single organism, trained and hardened to face worlds that would crush ordinary beings. The Lumerians watched in awe as the humans prepared for an offensive the galaxy would remember. They had not asked for warriors to take the fight to the enemy, but that was exactly what the humans would do. The journey to Xylar space was perilous. Mara's fleet moved through asteroid fields and dangerous gravitational pockets, navigating traps that would have destroyed any ordinary fleet. Yet the Deathworlders adapted effortlessly. Every maneuver was precise, every decision calculated. They had survived Deathworlds, alien predators, and hostile environments. Nothing could stop them, not even the endless void. When the first Xylar strongholds appeared on the sensors, the fleet braced for combat. Mara's heart tightened, not with fear, but with resolve. The enemy was massive, monstrous, and cunning, yet she had no doubt in her mind. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and humanity would rise again. The battle began with a sudden explosion that shook the void. Xylar ships, massive and jagged, lunged forward, their weapons blazing. Mara's armada responded instantly. Fighters streaked through space like silver shadows, dodging energy beams and firing with deadly precision. Larger ships unleashed volleys of missiles and plasma, striking Xylar vessels with crushing force. Even as the fleet fought, Mara noticed the courage of her soldiers. Young pilots who had trained for years on dangerous Deathworlds now executed maneuvers that seemed impossible. Each Deathworlder moved not out of fear or duty, but out of a determination to protect life itself. Every strike was personal, every shield held with unwavering will. One massive Xylar dreadnought charged toward the Lumerian system, aiming to destroy everything humanity had fought to protect. Mara activated the Iron Vengeance's weapon systems, her hands flying across the controls. All firepower on the dreadnought. Do not let it reach Lumeria Prime. The Deathworlders unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts, striking the dreadnought from every angle. It roared like a living beast trying to crush the humans' advance, but Mara's tactics were flawless. Fighters dove into its underbelly, tearing at weak points while cruisers struck its sides. Slowly, deliberately, the mighty ship began to fall. Amidst the chaos, Mara saw one of her young pilots caught in a volley of plasma fire. The fighter spun out of control, doomed to destruction. Without hesitation, she commanded a rescue squad to save him. Humanity did not leave its own behind. The pilot survived, shaken but alive, and the crew's morale soared. Courage and loyalty were as much weapons as missiles and lasers. The Lumerians watched the battle with awe and disbelief. They had asked for partners, expecting allies to help them survive. Instead, they found humans who fought with the fury of a storm, courage beyond reason, and hearts unbroken by fear. Every move, every strike, every sacrifice proved one thing. Humanity did not bow to monsters. Humanity destroyed them. Hours passed in a blur of fire, strategy, and sacrifice. The Xylar stronghold weakened under relentless human assault. Mara's fleet pressed forward, their momentum unstoppable. Finally, with one coordinated strike, the dreadnought exploded in a blaze of light, sending the remaining Xylar ships scattering into the void. Victory was theirs, hard won but complete. Mara stood on the bridge, watching the aftermath of the battle. The fleet was battered, but it had survived. The Lumerians approached her in their vessels, voices filled with awe. "We asked for help," one said, "but you gave us life itself. Mara shook her head, weary but resolute. No, she said quietly. We gave you what humans always give when the universe demands it. Strength, courage, and the will to fight. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us Deathworlders. And in the distance, the scattered Xylar ships fled into the dark void of space, carrying the lesson of this day. Never underestimate humanity. The void trembled with the fury of battle. The Deathworlder armada had pushed deep into Xylar space, but the enemy had regrouped, larger and more vicious than ever. Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, her eyes scanning the swarm of monstrous ships that spread across the stars like a living shadow. Every heartbeat was heavy with tension, every breath a reminder of the lives depending on her decisions. The Lumerians, who had once feared the void, now watched alongside the humans, their hope tied to Deathworlder courage. Can we win? A young Lumerian scientist asked, his voice trembling. Mara's eyes softened briefly as she looked at him. We don't hope to win, she said firmly. We make sure we do. The Xylar struck without warning. Dozens of bioships surged forward, ramming into human cruisers. Energy beams carved across the void, tearing holes in shields and armor. Mara's crew moved like living blades, dodging, weaving, and retaliating with lethal precision. Yet the enemy's numbers were crushing. Even the Deathworlders, hardened by the cruelest planets in the galaxy, felt the strain. One massive bioship tore into the center of the human line, crushing a frigate in seconds. Mara's heart clenched. She barked orders, her voice calm yet commanding. All units, focus fire on the bioship. We cannot let it break our line. Pilots surged forward, risking everything. Missiles streaked past in brilliant arcs of fire. Fighters dove into the ship's underbelly, lasers carving through its flesh-like armor. Explosions shook the void, sending debris spiraling like deadly stars. Mara watched as one pilot, barely out of training, sacrificed himself to ensure a squadmate escaped. Her jaw tightened. Loss was inevitable, but it was never meaningless. Every sacrifice bought time, and every moment counted. Amidst the chaos, Mara noticed the Lumerians struggling to keep their transport safe. Civilians huddled inside, terrified. She activated the fleet's coordinated defense drones, guiding them into a protective formation around the Lumerian ships. Even under impossible pressure, the Deathworlders never faltered. Humanity's strength was not just in firepower, it was in loyalty, in the refusal to abandon life. The Xylar commander, a monstrous creature of metal and sinew, emerged from the shadows of a capital ship. Its sheer presence radiated death. Mara's hands tightened on the controls. This is it, she said quietly. We end this now. Every ship in the human armada surged forward as one. Lasers cut through the void like 1,000 lightning strikes. Missiles struck with perfect coordination, and the fleet's combined fire tore the Xylar commander's ship apart. Yet the enemy did not surrender. Smaller bioships lunged forward, trying to ram and destroy. Mara's squadron intercepted them, shields flaring, weapons blazing. Somewhere amidst the battle, Mara felt a strange warmth, a pride that overcame fear. The humans around her were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for each other, for life, for the galaxy itself. They were proving something eternal. Humanity did not retreat from darkness. Humanity faced it head-on, no matter the cost. Hours passed. The Xylar were pushed back, but the toll on the human armada was evident. Ships were damaged, pilots exhausted, and lives lost. Mara surveyed the field of battle, every scar and burn a reminder of the struggle. Yet the Lumerians now approached their saviors with gratitude deeper than words. We thought we were doomed, one whispered. But you showed us life is worth fighting for. Mara looked at the young Lumerian scientist she had spoken to before. This is what humans do, she said. We fight, we endure. We protect life even when hope seems lost. That is our way. That is why we survive. The Xylar commander, seeing its fleet shattered and its forces scattered, retreated into the void. The battle was over for now, but the price had been high. Mara knew the war was not fully won. Yet the moment was a victory beyond strategy or numbers. It was a victory of spirit. Humanity had proven to the galaxy and to the Lumerians that when faced with annihilation, humans did not bow. They became a force of nature, unstoppable and unyielding. As the twin suns of Lumeria Prime rose over the horizon, casting light on battered cities, Mara allowed herself a breath of relief. The Lumerians, once afraid, now looked upon the humans not just as allies but as legends, and somewhere deep inside Mara felt it. A bond formed between species, a shared understanding that life, when defended with courage and heart, could never be truly destroyed. She turned to her officers, her face stern but proud. "Remember this," she said. "The Xylar may return, but they will never forget today. Humanity stands. Humanity fights. And humanity does not surrender." In the silence that followed, Mara allowed herself a small smile. They had faced the edge of darkness and emerged victorious, not because the stars favored them, but because humans never gave up. And that truth would echo across the galaxy forever. The void of space was quiet, almost peaceful. As the remnants of the Xylar fleet fled into the darkness, Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the Iron Vengeance, her hands gripping the railing, her eyes fixed on the horizon of scattered stars. The war was not easy. Countless lives had been lost, countless ships damaged, yet humanity had prevailed. The Deathworlders had struck fear into the hearts of the universe's most ruthless predators, and survived. Below, Lumeria Prime began to breathe again. Smoke rose from the shattered cities, but it was no longer suffocating. Survivors emerged from hiding, marveling at the sight of human ships orbiting above. The twin suns bathed the crystal towers in golden light, reflecting hope where despair had once ruled. Children laughed again in the streets. Parents held their families close, and the Lumerian leaders gathered in the central council hall to honor the humans who had saved them. Mara's communicator crackled. A Lumerian voice spoke, trembling with gratitude. "Commander Cade, humanity, you have saved our world. We cannot thank you enough. You fought not as allies, not as partners, but as something greater." Mara shook her head, her face stern but softening with quiet pride. "We fight because it is right. Because life matters. Because when the universe challenges us, we answer, not with fear but with strength." The Lumerians had once viewed humans as unpredictable, dangerous, even terrifying. And perhaps they had been right. But now, after facing the Deathworlders in battle, the Lumerians understood the truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were protectors, warriors whose courage and loyalty knew no bounds. They did not flee when faced with impossible odds. They did not hesitate when life itself was in peril. Across the Armada, the human crews worked tirelessly. They repaired ships, tended to the wounded, and prepared to leave the system once more. Yet the Lumerians insisted that they remain for a time, to ensure the world's safety and to witness the gratitude of those they had saved. Mara allowed it. She watched as children ran along the repaired streets waving at the humans in the sky. For a brief moment, the Deathworlders saw the universe not as a battlefield, but as something worth defending. Mara reflected on the journey. From the moment the first message arrived, humanity had responded not with hesitation but with action. The Lumerians had asked for partners. They received warriors who carried the strength of countless death worlds, the cunning of humanity's toughest survivors, and the unyielding will to fight for life itself. And in doing so, humans had changed the course of an entire species' history. Yet the victory was not without sorrow. Mara knew the names of those lost, the faces of the brave souls who had given everything. She honored them silently, understanding that humanity's greatness was not measured by power alone, but by the willingness to sacrifice for others. Every fallen Deathworlder had ensured that Lumeria Prime still stood. Every life given had forged a legacy that would be remembered across the stars. As the Armada prepared to depart, the Lumerian leaders approached Mara. Their voices were solemn, filled with awe. "Your people, your courage. It is unlike anything we have ever known. Humanity is a force of the universe itself." Mara's eyes met theirs. "No," she said softly. "We are humans. We do what must be done. We fight, we survive. And when others cannot, we will stand for them. That is all we are. That is all we have ever been. The twin suns of Lumeria set behind the horizon, casting long golden beams across the city. Mara turned her gaze to the stars beyond, knowing that the Xylar would rebuild, would strike again, but humanity would be ready. The galaxy would remember this day, not just as a battle won, but as proof of what humans could achieve when faced with extinction. Her officer approached, bowing slightly. "Commander, the fleet is ready to return home." Mara nodded. "Then we go. Humanity's work is never done, but life must be defended wherever it calls." As the Deathworlder armada jumped into faster-than-light travel, the Lumerians cheered, their voices echoing across the planet. Stories would be told for generations of the humans who had descended from the stars and fought like gods, yet remained human in heart. Mara looked back at Lumeria one last time, and in that quiet moment she allowed herself a rare smile. They had come as strangers. They had fought as warriors, and they left as legends. Humanity had proven once again that its strength was more than technology, more than numbers, more than fear. Humanity was the unyielding spirit of life itself. And somewhere deep in the void, Mara whispered quietly, almost to herself, they wanted partners. They got Deathworlders, and Deathworlders never surrender. The armada disappeared into the stars, leaving Lumeria Prime alive, free, and forever changed. The universe had witnessed humanity's courage, and its echo would ripple across galaxies for generations to come.